Hello, everyone, and thank you for attending the AAE Virtual Job Fair event. I would like to introduce you to AJ. AJ will tell you about his company, job openings, and how to apply for those openings. AJ?
Good afternoon, guys. Thank you for coming over, taking a look at AAE. We've been around since 2001 when the owner of the company purchased a press from Japan and brought it over to Beloit, Wisconsin. We were out in Beloit until 2017, where in 2014 we purchased the property that we're currently at in Roscoe, Illinois. And in that time, between 2001 and 2014, we built 2 additional presses inside the company and are currently working on additional items inside AAE, such as cycling part of it. We want to try to take that, instead of having it be outsourced, we want to take it and keep it more in-house. So this way it keeps turnover and any overhead costs even lower. Additionally, we have about 30 positions open right now, and it's crazy because we're adding a 3rd crew to our 3rd shift. So we've had a lot of moving parts on it because right now our lead time for the customers that we have is currently a 20-week lead time with what we have. And that's before we've accepted any other opportunities and sales, just to be frank. And once that's getting accepted, we're quickly beyond that 25-week mark, which is just too long for some of our smaller companies. Who we're working with right now that are taking up a majority of our time are those like Morgan Corp, Great Dane. And what we do with them is we'll be able to, we'll build the trailer walls. But in order to do that, we take the aluminum and we melt it down to about 800 degrees, and we have 8 positions within 1 press who will take it, stretch it out, all according to what the customer needs are. So then it's cut within a certain time, certain length that it's cut. It's brought over. The tail stretcher and the head stretcher, which are 2 positions that secure the aluminum to begin the stretching, creates a little bit of waste there. So a part of the saw operator cuts the excess aluminum that's there. And once that's brought over, it's positioned over to the saw, where the saw operator feeds it to the appropriate length, cuts it, and at that point, it's brought over to our production apprentices. Literally just move it off the belt onto a table where a crane operator attaches it to this crane, to this table. It's lifted up and just moved over to shipping and eventually out of our facility into the customer's hands. So the positions that we're looking for, I mean, we're looking for maintenance, whether that's a maintenance apprentice, or whether that's maintenance technician, or a team lead, team supervisor, depending on the experience and depending on what you're able to bring to the table, as well as a production apprentice. And within the press, we start with a production apprentice position as much as we can, because the point of it is we want to take that base where you have an understanding of how the press works. And I'm in HR here, but I'm still learning about the press because it's an industry that I'm not familiar with. And it's rather interesting because you would think like, okay, this is everything. Then there's another layer on top of it, another layer, whether that's quality, which is just making sure that if a customer wants it at 0.000% of a leeway of kind of like the wiggle room that you're able to have because of human error. So we have testers in them, we have a quality team in there who literally just get down to the, like, almost like the atoms, because we have an age oven that hardens the material and sets it up. And what I love about all of this within everything, because if I just keep diving into the positions that we have available, I'll run out of time. But what I love about AAE is they say, hey, come in, just get on the bus. Don't worry about a seat. Don't worry about what you're going to do, where you're going to go. Just come in. Once you're in and you show up, because we have a 1-week review, 2-week review, and a 45-day review. And at that 45-day, there is the beginning of an increase in merit. After that, there's a 60-day, 180-day, and 365-day. And now that's not including any training, additional training that you do. Say you're a production apprentice and you are working hard, you're doing well, but you say, you know what, I see we need a forklift driver for this press. Teach me how to drive a forklift. That in itself is a different position, giving you opportunity for a promotion and a raise on top of your 45-day raise. It's all about how you are and what you can do, because how far you want to move in this company literally falls on how hard you want to be in this company. If you want to go deep and want to be a press operator, press lead, or anything, whether it's the Loma saw operator or a Loma saw production apprentice, there's so many different avenues. It's able to give you that opportunity. Because what I love about the owner, Sam, he's been in the aluminum business since he was 17, when he came to America, and now he's in his early 50s. He believes in opportunity more than anything. And so he wants to make your opportunity as great as it can. So we find that through our benefits that we have. We have family, we have short-term, long-term disability, we have vision, dental, medical, we have a PPO, we have a health savings account with Cobra as well. And one of the things that you'll find at AAE that you won't find at any other facility like ours is our 401k program. So say you get paid $1,000 and you put 6% in, that's $60. What the company does is they'll give you up to a 3% match. So they'll take $30 of your 60 that you're giving, because it's 3% of the 1,000, and put that towards your 401k. So with you donating 60 towards your 401k and their income as well, that's now putting $90 towards your 401k versus the original 60. That 3% employer match is something that you don't find in many other places, as well as the opportunity to have just a camaraderie that isn't found, because if something's wrong, they'll let you know. They'll come to you and say, hey, I see you're really slacking on this. Why did you let 15 billets go through the press before anything was changed? You noticed the die was incorrect. What happened? And it's not just well, you messed up. Oh, well, bye, see you later. It's hey, we noticed this was a mistake. Let's talk about it. Let's see how you can improve, and let's see what we can do to really keep you going. Additionally, we have another warehouse out in Canton, Ohio. So if you ever want to go to the NFL Hall of Fame, that is one way you can get there. We've been around since 2001, moved here 2017, 2014 is when we purchased the building. Trying to think, let me look at my notes here real quick. Yeah. So any questions for me?
Fantastic. Thank you for that presentation, AJ. And I just do want to go ahead and reiterate, if you do have any questions for AJ regarding employment with AAE, please feel free to enter those questions into the chat. We will get those answered for you here shortly. AJ, while we are waiting for some questions to come in, I do have some pre-prepared questions that I do have. Do you have a few minutes to answer some of those, sir?
Absolutely. Go into it.
Fantastic. So the first question that I have for you, AJ, is how long does your hiring process typically take from the point of submitting an application to actually being extended that official offer for hire?
Yeah. That truly depends on the position. Recently, we were hiring for a quality manager. That took more loopholes, and that you had to get through to interview with the president of the company, the vice president of the company, the plant manager of the company, myself, the HR consultant, all before we hired the individual. Whereas a production apprentice, you can come in and just meet with me, have a conversation. I give you a tour of the plant. I say, this is where you would literally be. This is what you would literally be doing. It's taking the aluminum, lifting it up, which once it's stretched out, it's anywhere from 5 to 10 pounds that you would literally just be lifting to move on to. And the reason why we have such high turnover for that position is twofold. One, either people are promoted to other positions, or two, they just get bored and leave. That's about it. And so for a position like that, or for a position like a maintenance apprentice, we are comfortable with a county check to verify what we need to verify, and while the rest of the background check comes back. If you're able and willing to work tomorrow, we'd have you come in tomorrow for a safety orientation. We have to come in, fill out the proper paperwork to finalize the new hire onboarding, get you into that safety class, have you go through it with our safety lead, Andy. And finally, after that, we'll literally put you on the floor within 24 hours.
Fantastic. Thank you for that, AJ. And AJ, the next question that I have for you is regarding educational requirements. Are there any for the positions that you covered here today, just minimum educational requirements?
Yeah, we have a number of them that just require a GED. We do have some that the higher up you go do require bachelor's at least, but for a majority of them, it's a GED.
Fantastic. And you did mention during your presentation kind of a little bit about third shift, just kind of elaborating off of that. Can you just explain to the folks that are on the call or tuning in maybe later what your typical shift structure looks like?
Absolutely. We have 3 shifts that are typically Monday through Friday. Any extra time will be posted throughout the week, whether that's on a Tuesday or a Thursday in between those days, on if a Saturday is needed, but typically it's a Monday to Friday. First shift starts at 7 a.m., ends at 3:30 p.m. Second shift starts at 3:30 p.m., ends at 11 p.m. And third shift starts at 11:30 p.m., ends at 7:30 a.m. And there's shift differential as well. Second shift is a 50-cent increase, whereas third shift is $1 increase.
Excellent. You did say, AJ, correct, that you are particularly seeking to hire for third shift. Was that correct?
We were originally when this was even started, but as time has progressed, we're looking more for second shift at this time, where we really have the most holes.
Understood. Thank you for that, AJ. And then another question that I have for you, obviously, probably one of the reasons we could argue that we're using this platform right now, is that, COVID is kind of at the forefront of a lot of folks' minds. How is AAE handling kind of the safety precaution aspect of that? Do you guys offer like virtual interviewing, virtual onboarding, things of that nature? I know
we welcome virtual interviews as much as you need. We are comfortable with that. Yes, we are.
Awesome. Fantastic. Thank you for that, AJ. And then, AJ, how often are the new positions that you covered here today posted? And is there a way that job applicants can maybe set up for reminders and things of that nature to be, informed?
Absolutely. If you go on Indeed, you'll find our page, American Aluminum Extrusion, and in there you can set the notifications for you to be emailed when new jobs are posted. Yes.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. And I'm just going to take a brief pause here and just reiterate, if you do have a question for AJ, please feel free to enter those into the chat section. We'll get those answered for you ASAP. AJ, kind of pivoting back to the questions that I have for you, can you kind of describe how a candidate can stand out and get an interview, assuming they are qualified for the position which they're applying? Are there any tips, points, anything like that that you would suggest folks highlight?
Yeah, showing up on time, having a printed resume, and any references. You'd be surprised the percentage of how many people do not have a resume or any references with them. They just show up and say, hey, I want a job. And that kind of demeanor and presentation, even if you're late, tells me you're not committed. You're going to rather move quickly. And especially for individuals that said, hey, I have 3 months experience here, 3 months experience here, and 3 months experience here. Automatically, I'm under the impression that you're probably only going to last 3 months to begin with. You're not going to be a long-term hire. So when you come in with that mentality of, it's whatever, pay me this, or I'm just not even going to do it, like kind of thing, like more of a hostile environment. That's not the culture we're building here. That's in my opinion, it's ugly. And it's not something that we want to be a part of. So when we run into things like that, that's when we typically end ties. Coming in just with an eager spirit to learn speaks volumes.
Understood. Thank you so much for that, AJ. And AJ, can folks expect to be paid for the time in which they're being trained?
I'm sorry, say again?
I was just asking, can folks expect to be paid for the time in which they're being trained?
Oh, yes. Yes. Yeah. The fact that you have to ask that is surprising. Yeah, you are paid for your training.
Fantastic. Thank you for that, AJ. And then an additional question, kind of building off of that. Do you provide, funding for things such as continuing educational expenses, things like that? I know a lot of times on my events, folks ask about getting additional certifications, and they ask if employers will cover the cost of that.
Yes, we do. And actually, starting at the end of this month, we're having Rock Valley College come out here directly to do classes and teach and have opportunities for those who want to learn more to learn more. And this is all company funded.
Excellent. Thank you. And are there any other perhaps allowances that the company provides? I know that's a question that I get frequently as well. Things such as clothing allowances.
Yes. Reimbursement for boots once a year. We provide safety glasses and safety equipment, so you should not have to purchase your own, but if you so desire to purchase your own, especially for those who want like prescription glasses, those are reimbursable as well.
Awesome. Thank you for that, AJ. And then another question that I have for you, it's kind of a unique one though that I actually receive quite frequently on these events, and that is, do you have any restrictions on tattoos, hair color, or piercings?
No, the only clothing or any requirements we have for the individual, you have to have sleeves on your shirt and you have to have pants over your legs and no holes, because if a piece of aluminum is coming out and goes quickly, we would rather have a minimum layer of protection versus bare skin on that one. But there's no hesitations as far as, our shipping lead is covered in sleeves or has sleeves all over, like tattoos, things incorrectly.
No worries, AJ. And I know you did mention during your presentation, you had mentioned something about background checks. Building off of that, another question that I do get frequently as well is, would misdemeanor offenses, minor offenses, things of that nature, would those be disqualifying factors for folks that are looking for employment with your organization, just typically speaking?
Yeah, typically there's two things that really are flags that I have to present to the president, and he has to make the final say: theft and public battery.
Understood. Thank you for that, sir. And AJ, what does a typical day look like for the positions that you covered here today? You don't have to go through all of them, but maybe just take a few and give folks an idea of what that'll look like.
What I love about the positions that we offer here and everything about a typical day is it's team oriented. So if you have the press and you have one position, you're going to have, not including maintenance, not including forklift operators, not including press operators, 8 people total. So a typical day is the life of the press. So if the press has downtime, you have downtime. If the press does not have downtime, you have light manufacturing duty today. It's very black and white. Either you have something to do, whether that's driving the forklift, making sure your team is doing well, moving aluminum, making sure the straps are connected for the overhead crane, keeping your team accountable by wearing hard hats. There's always a small pressure of something going on because there's so many moving parts. Whereas if there's press downtime because the die cracked and it has to be redone, or we ran out of billets, the Loma saw can only cut so fast to create the billets, and there's an hour of downtime or an hour and a half of downtime, that's an hour and a half of downtime. So really each individual day strives for an hour of downtime or less.
Excellent. Thank you for that, AJ. And AJ, just kind of a final question that I do have for you. That is, what are the opportunities for advancement at AAE? And are there any particular success stories that you'd like to highlight for folks on the call?
So like I mentioned, the press has 8 positions, 1 to 8. The chances of advancing in the company, you start at 1. Hopefully by week 2, you're at 2. Hopefully by that 45-day mark, you're at 4. We want you to be able to come in, know the press, know how it works, Whereas with the maintenance team and the technicians, we want you to know how to build the press. I had mentioned in 2001, Sam purchased the first press from Japan. What's crazy, the most crazy thing about all of that to me is they had to take it apart and build it back together. So every nut, every screw, every wire, things that I don't know how it works in all of that fashion. It's an opportunity to say, yep, hey, I'm willing to learn, I'm willing to do it, let's do it together. And as far as a success story, man, I look at this one guy, his name is Juan, he started as a production apprentice. Within 2 months, he was a press lead. So he grew within those 8 positions, and he's been here for 5 years. And he's able to be at a team supervisor view now, where he can look at all 3 presses and say, okay, what's going on here? What's going on here? What's going on here? And really help navigate their time of managing the billets, managing the speed, managing the percent of human error and what's allowed. Because sometimes we do have to create samples as well and send that out to a customer. And so that will make your day look different compared to customers that don't need samples.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, AJ. And I just do want to pause briefly here once more and just encourage folks, if you do have any questions for AJ regarding employment with AAE, please feel free to enter those into the chat and we'll get them answered for you. AJ, while we're waiting for any of those last minute questions to come in, I just want to hand things back over to you to give you kind of a final opportunity to make any sort of summary statements or concluding remarks that you'd like to make, and then maybe draw attention or highlight maybe something from the presentation or maybe something that perhaps you feel could be touched upon further.
As far as final thoughts within AAE, it's a company that, I mean, case in point, my assistant, her father passed away yesterday, and she called me bawling, and I was like, go home, just go. And she's like, okay. So she went home, she provided proper documentation of like, yep, this is legit, this is a real thing. But no one asked for it. No one thought like, she's lying to us. Furthermore, I've met with the owner a few times for HR reasons, and throughout our conversations, he says things like, I don't want bureaucracy in my company. I want it to be a people company. Even when we go to other individuals for opportunities of recruitment, I'm told, hey, don't go here because they're not in the community enough. They're not doing enough to make a local change and local impact. And some days it's hard to go to work. Just let's be honest, it is. But when you know you're coming to work for a place that values the individual over the dollar, it makes it easier because they're willing to share that dollar with you. They're willing to say, what does it take to keep you? What does it take to invest in you as the individual, rather than investing in the position that can have such a high turnover? And as far as going back to what I've said and anything else adding into it, I want to circle back on that 401k with that 3% employer match. For a job that requires a GED, I can't think of a single other company that will give you 3% of your 401k. It's commendable. It's very commendable. And I think that's just proof of how well Sam tries to take care of his employees.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that, AJ. And AJ, one additional question that I'd like to ask you before we wrap things up today, and that is, if folks on the call or tuning in at a later date do have any questions for you regarding employment with your organization, or just general inquiries, that are maybe application related, what would be the best way to get those questions answered? Would it be to
Absolutely.
contact you directly, or
Yes.
how would they do so?
Contacting me directly is best, and you can email me. My email is ajstratton@aaew.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, AJ. And just kind of as a final note here for the folks that are on the call, this session has been recorded and it will be made available on the Illinois WorkNet YouTube channel later this afternoon under the Virtual Job Fair playlist. Once it has been uploaded at that location, we will be linking it to the job fair booth on the screen that you see here. The point being, you can come back and reference that video at a later date if you have any issues while you're filling out those applications, any information that you just want to touch up on, reference. We'll have that all again uploaded onto the employer booth later this afternoon, so you can use that at a later date. AJ, thank you so much for, of course, joining us today, sharing your time. We know you're busy. And of course, to the job seekers on the line, we thank you as well for tuning in. We hope, again, that this was thorough, that it was insightful, and that it helps you along in your job search and your journey moving forward. Thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you. Have a good day, guys.